have things been for you in quarantined Canada?
Quarantine Canada. Well, they kind of loosened things up a little bit just recently. So I took the opportunity to come up to a place here called Summerland. It's about 4.5 hours away from where I am, and see my dad, see how he's doing, check in with him, and hang out here for a week or so, and then head back down and go back to work and all that. Because I've been working the entire time because we're considered an essential service or whatever.
Sweet.
But, yeah. So, and we get tested every couple of weeks. So far, so good. But if I'm not working, I'm at home usually, or I've come up here for a week and a half. So.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, in case you guys have never met Neil before, he has his own YouTube channel where he talks to other atheists, and he does a bunch of different stuff. He doesn't always talk to atheists either. He opens the conversation up to a lot of different people, but in particular, you talk about deconversion stories a lot.
That's right,
and you just do a lot for the community. Actually, I could go through a whole bio of what Neil does, but it would take up like our whole first 20 minutes of the show. I mean, Neil does a lot for the community, which is great because I wanted to ask you tonight, Neil, about activism, because I get messages from people who are like, hey, what can I do to do more and talk to other people about this stuff? And yeah, not everybody has the means to start a YouTube channel or to donate money or, to do any of that kind of stuff. And so they just want to get involved. So I wanted to kind of brainstorm some ideas with you tonight, starting off with how can people get involved? Because I know you're involved with quite a number of different organizations and you kind of do a bunch of different stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I'm involved with Canadian Atheists. I'm the community advocate for Canadian Atheists. My very good friend Randolph Richardson is the president of that. So we organize get-togethers from time to time. Well, we will once the COVID thing is gone by. Right now, it's like online meetings or Zoom meetings and whatnot. A really good way is to help some of your favorite, known atheists, help them retweet stuff that's important, you feel, like the International Atheists Association or whatever that I'm also a member of with Courtney Hurd here in Summerland where I'm at right now. And actually I'll be getting together with her and a few others for a Skeptics in the Pub, of course, remaining with the social distancing and all that. We're going to put together a little brainstorming thing there as well tonight. And you could also be a volunteer at any of the events that come through your town, especially if you're very interested in going to that event. A great way to get in is to be a volunteer, which I have done a couple of times on a couple of different things that have come through here as well. If you, again, this is an afforded thing, you can come down to Faithless Forum and meet other atheists when that goes on, right? And,
not this year, but hopefully next year.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I'm pretty sure by next year we should probably be okay.
I think so too. I hope so too. I think another thing. Yeah. Like when I was first trying to learn how to get involved, I think the first thing I did was like join a Facebook group. And that was cool. Because just having conversations with other people about this stuff is really refreshing, especially if you're just kind of joining this stuff. Eventually, I had the means to start traveling to the atheist community of Austin, and I started doing some stuff out of there. But I'm lucky. Like I am so lucky because there is the atheist community of Austin is only in Austin, and I get to do great stuff here. But what do you do when you're in the middle of Oklahoma or Montana, where like the only atheist group might be your Unitarian church full of people you can't relate to,
There's a lot of secular student alliances around the world. You can get involved with one of them. There are multiple. I'm pretty sure almost every city has some form of a humanist organization. Like we have the BC Humanists, which I'm also part of. So you can get involved with that. Again, some of these also have a membership fee, but they're usually fairly nominal, and they're good for a year or so. Some offer more than 1 year for a membership. So those are other ways too. Yeah, for sure. And Facebook groups is a really good way to get your feet wet.
Yeah, thank goodness we live in the age of the internet. Actually, the internet has become a terrible and awful thing. But like for the good parts, right? Like I would not have been able to talk to you or talk to just basically everybody in this community without it. Like I cannot imagine figuring all this stuff out in like the 70s and just being like, well, what do I do now?
The internet is a tool and it could be used for either good or bad, right?
That's true. That's true. And I hope that we can do some good things tonight. as we get to some of your calls. And we do have a few more open lines, but we got some calls coming up tonight. So would love to talk to you guys in just a bit. But I have a story for you, Neil.
Okay.
I feel like
stories.
Yeah, like I've noticed recently here on Truth Wanted, I've started off with a lot of stories of conversations I've had with people. And it sounds like I just want people to realize, like, I talk about this stuff all the time, even off air. I'm just that kind of person. But recently I was posting on Facebook, which I never do, about Pico, the lovely cat who is sleeping in the back there. I don't think we have the Pico cam set up tonight, but he's in there if you can see him online.
Camouflaged.
Yeah, right. A friend of mine that I've known since preschool messaged me. It was like, "Hey, what's up? How are you doing?" And we started talking, and I noticed that on her Facebook, she was posting about, I think it's pronounced Monet, which is a multi-level marketing organization. So it was like, oh, and like I have the advantage of knowing this person for a long time. So like any criticisms or skepticisms I might get out, they might be willing to tolerate that more than just some stranger on the internet, right? So I just brought it up. I was like, hey, Monet actually has a lot of like really bad FDA complaints and stuff. And she gave me the line that every other MLM person says, which is like, yeah, there's lots of competitors. So there's lots of complaints about your products and stuff and bad reviews, but that's just people who yada, yada, yada. Like there's some sort of line for that for every MLM that you ever
of course.
Right?
I'm sure the seniors gave them all those lines to feed people that have anything negative to
absolutely.
say.
And I could totally tell. And now she hadn't been involved for too long. It was only a couple months. But I sent her an article about some stuff and we started talking. And surprisingly, Neil, by the end of this conversation, she was like, oh yeah, it doesn't sound super great. Like I wasn't super into it. I wasn't like a diehard defender, but like what you're showing me makes sense. And it looks like there's some like scientific problems that were wrong. Because another complaint of Monet products was that they were actually damaging. They sell like shampoo and other kind of hair products and stuff. That they were actually damaging people's scalps and stuff. And there were some pretty bad pictures and stuff that we were looking at. And so, yeah, by the end of that conversation, Neil, she sounded like she didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And that just blew my mind because it's one thing to maybe move someone's opinion a little bit. It's another to go that far in one conversation. I don't know if I've ever had someone be convinced that fast before.
You're an expert MLM epistemologist.
I don't even talk to people about MLMs that much, but like that was just enough. And so like I don't know, like I guess I tell that story just to encourage people that even if you're just moving people a little bit with these kinds of conversations, it's always worth trying. Because like I'm still friends with this girl. She respects me. She may not agree with everything I have to say, but like that conversation helped change things a little bit. And like that's how real action gets done, is by having conversations like that. That's so right. I guess I don't know, Neil, do you have any stories like that? Because that was pretty crazy for me.
Actually, funny that you ask. You just having our sort of second go around with this sort of topic. I just remembered about a phone MLM company that a friend of mine got involved with, and he asked me to go, and I said, sure, I'll check it out. And I went in, and after the big meeting, I took him aside afterwards. I said, Dean, get the hell out of this right now. So, this is MLMs are great if you're one of the people that started it and you're at the top making all the money that comes up that pyramid chain. But other than that, you're going to be suffering from this. So,
yeah, like I had lost my job in December, and when I was in between jobs, I got an interview with this company, and I didn't even realize it was an MLM until I got to the actual interview. I got that far along in the process, and I'm someone who is pretty skeptical of that kind of stuff. And so once I figured it out, you almost don't want to believe it because it's like, oh, but this is a job opportunity for me, and I've been looking for stuff. Like there's so much holding you back from wanting to be skeptical about this kind of stuff. And so I get why people get into it. And some of them are kind of shady too. And not all of them have the best resources or information on them either. So it's harder to look them up. That's right. So, and if they do have information, they probably have like, Google bots that put the pages they want come up first when they search for them. Right. So there's all kinds of tricks to this sort of thing.
Right. For sure. There is. Yeah. And it's a shame because a lot of people get sucked into these things and they can get bled dry financially. And it's a friend of a family many years ago did the Amway, and yeah, and they pretty much got bled dry from that. That kind of sucked.
Yeah, and it's like until you can recognize the patterns, I think it's harder to see. I think that's kind of a key, is looking for the little things. Like when they go to their website, do they talk more about the products they sell or about the recruitment process? You know, it's just like little subtle things that you kind of pick up over time.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those skills, it's a lot harder to figure that out. So
there's many gullible people out there.
But you know,
they take full advantage of that.
Yeah, it's not just gullible people, though. I think it's people who also just find a way to rationalize it, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because like, you know, one thing that MLMs always say is like, oh, it's kind of like starting your own business. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of upfront costs and stuff like that, you know? And so if you frame it in the way of, oh, I'm doing this for myself, this is me, I'm like I'm an entrepreneur, you know, then that's going to be better than, oh, you're just going to pay for this crap that probably nobody's going to buy. And that's it. We're kind of done with you. You're on your own, you know? So,
you get that initial startup kit and sink $300-400 into this, and then you can't unload it, and now you're screwed.
Yeah. So if there's anybody that has any experience with MLMs tonight also that wants to call in, I'd be interested in hearing that, because I've heard some horror stories for sure about and 90% of the time it's financial loss, you know? Sometimes there's like bad communication with people in the organization, but the biggest danger, I think, is that financial loss. And that's harsh. It's really, really harsh. So
it's a big blow, I mean, to somebody's livelihood. So
yeah, and people should, you know, if they want to be entrepreneurs, they should really do it the right way and get set up with organizations that actually want to help young entrepreneurs and not get joined up in something that's going to ruin your life. So there's that. So again, we're going to get to calls in just a second, but I do want to plug some stuff here. Of course, as always, we got the merchandise for Truth Wanted. If you want, you can go to that bit.ly link that's going to be in the description for getting some cool swag. And just like Neil's wearing tonight, which is really, really cool. And also, if you want to become a YouTube member, you can donate to that as well. You get some cool emojis and some other perks. And of course, we have the Patreon, which gets you your name in the credits, among other things. So please consider that. Hey, Neil's a patron of this show. You want to be like Neil, right?
I am. Yeah. Be like me.
Yeah. Neil's a pretty cool guy. So Neil, what have you been up to?
Pretty cool. What's this?
Neil is a fantastic individual, and I'm really glad he's here. What more do you want from me?
Man. Me too. I'm pulling your leg, buddy. I'm just glad I was given another shot at this, because last time I had a really crappy computer and the internet crapped out, my computer crapped out, and then I lost 20 minutes. So thank you for having me back on, my friend.
Absolutely. And you've been hitting up a couple other ACA shows too. You've been making some rounds.
Yeah. I did Talk Heathen last weekend with Vila Bianca.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of fun. It was really, really good conversations, I think, on that. We had some very amicable conversations with the people that called in, which is good, which I try to strive for.
Yeah, I think a common reaction I get from a lot of guests afterwards, they're just like, "Oh, that was really fun." You know, it's like, this is a fun thing to do, getting to talk to people about their experiences and what they want to talk about. So let's go ahead and have some fun. And